Hello, everybody. It's James, and this is my CEO Jimbo playlist. I have another video on Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 about a missing Boeing 777 that disappeared about 10 years ago. It took off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, for Beijing, China, and disappeared, and still hasn't been found. Um, Parts have been found, and that's about it. Anyway, this involves my research. I made up a list here of kind of what I plan to cover on this tonight. Fire suppression bottle. This episode is on parts, and I'm writing a book about the missing flight, and this whole video is really on section 2 of my book on parts. There's 4 chapters. The first chapter on in this section is fire suppression bottle, and exterior parts, interior parts, and then unidentifiable parts, the latest and other, and so on. And I spent the last 2 weeks going through this. 2 weeks ago, I made a video on section 1, which involved witnesses, and then I shifted to parts and so on. That's kind of my regular routine. Tomorrow, I'll shift to section 3 and start getting going on navigation tomorrow. Anyway, so I made this list by just kind of, scrolling through this and coming up with kind of the highlights of the week, and just kind of what's been going through my mind as I've been kind of like researching this. There seems to be sort of like this trend. I just keep hearing over and over again over various parts that the authorities just quickly rejected the part for being not part of the aircraft. And, people have questioned that because it seems like, the timing is right, the shape and the, material of the part is right, and all this type of thing, and so on. The other thing, there's a couple of instances where the part has like been sort of put up off limits, like the fire suppression bottle turned up on the Maldives, the islands of the Maldives, like 2 weeks after the aircraft went missing, and the authorities sort of like quickly took possession of it, and no one has really seen it since. There hasn't been any scientific research about this part because no one has had access to it, and so forth. So I just wrote down no updates. Somebody said that there's no updates about this thing, about, that there's maybe a lot to be learned about, what this thing is, but there's no updates as to, whether it had anything in it or didn't have anything in it, any fluid, any stripping of the, the threads that, hoses hook up to or whatever. So it's kind of like off limits. Also, I was watching a video, I think over this last 2-week period, and somebody was describing the fire suppression bottle and made a comment that about it being part of the engine nacelle, and it's clearly, to me, it's something that was in the cargo compartment, kind of the lower bilge of the airplane, and so on. It kind of fits that description, and so on. And I kind of wonder if somebody is like it just seems like there's sort of like this movement from real to unreal, where people are sort of just making this unreal, where it's like, if it's like a puzzle piece, and it clearly goes in the cargo hold where the other pieces are that are just like it, and so on. But somebody will kind of like sort of twist it and say it's an engine part. Well, the engine um, fire extinguishers look very different than what this thing was. This thing is like a spherical thing, and I think like the fire extinguishers in the engines are maybe like more cylindrical or something like that. Um, so anyway, that's kind of the basics of that. I don't know that exactly what shape. At this time I really don't know too much about what the engine ones look like, because I'm not studying the engine ones. I know kind of more what the cargo hold ones look like. The flaperon larger barnacles not available. There was an article about this, that there's different barnacle sizes, and people are kind of, saying that the larger the barnacle is, the longer it's been on there, because it's been growing on there and so forth. And somehow, if you are a scientist and you want to study the barnacles on the flaperon, you can get access to the little, brand new young barnacles, but the larger ones are off limits. That seems kind of strange. Let's see, the second flaperon on the Maldives. This turned up. There was a little figuring where it said a Saturday. The plane went missing on a Saturday, but I think they were talking about, they found it on a Saturday, but it was a Saturday about 2 years after the plane went missing, and it had no barnacles on it. Oh no, that was something else I was talking about. That um, this one, I should just read what I'm writing here. Second flaperon on the Maldives. The Maldivian authorities basically quickly said that the flaperon is not part of the missing plane, and they were just really making people into laughing stocks by saying that they didn't believe them and that kind of thing and so on. So it's not like they're fearing for their lives. They're sort of like, they, they, they don't want to get laughed at. So they're sort of like not pursuing anything further about, the flaperon, learning more about it. People calling, so it's sort of a toxic environment for scientists and so forth. People calling Blaine Gibson, he's a researcher. Get into that too much. Well, maybe you've seen this before. This is kind of my silly thing here. This is just a list, more or less, in sort of Hollywood Squares format and so on. That kind of the stars of this, that are people that are kind of like me, maybe trying to, help the um, uh, families of the victims find closure to this and so on. This Blaine Gibson guy is really instrumental in parts. Vance is sort of a parts guy, accident investigator, um, kind of all kinds of things. Another book author, a 777 pilot. There's another pilot, Godfrey. He's kind of instrumental in this thing called Whisper. Anyway, this is the guy. Blaine Gibson is instrumental in finding a lot of these parts, or organizing sort of the finding of them, where he didn't find some of these directly himself, but they wouldn't have been found if it wasn't for him. Where he's gone to these little islands out in the Indian Ocean near Africa, and he's kind of told villagers to kind of like look for these parts and ask them if they know of any of these parts. And some of these people have come up with parts from their yard that they've kind of like started using for like cutting boards and stuff like that. And so some of those have been sort of turned into the authorities, and then the authorities have sort of like you know um, hid them. They're sort of like no longer available for study from anybody. So anyway, this guy's kind of getting a group going that's sort of like an independent organization to like send parts to be analyzed, at least sort of before turning them into the authorities, if not forever more without ever turning them into the authorities. To try to learn from them and so forth, since that stifling is sort of happening. And people are calling Blake fake. I had sort of like I think almost a whole video on this guy's death threats and stuff like that. But some are calling him a fake and have said that he's actually planting these parts. They're not. He's not out finding real parts, or what I just said about the villagers, getting the villagers to kind of look for him and have them find him. That people are sort of accusing him of actually like faking these parts, making them or something, and then it's all a hoax. Um, and then there was kind of this new thing. I've heard that they've been wanting to kill him, but this poisoning thing is kind of like new. There wasn't any details on that, and there's an article in there about that somebody is threatened to kill him with heavy metals, polonium, and there's actually a current news story. Somewhat related in heavy metal poisoning, where I think it involved like Ukraine or something like that, where somebody in Ukraine was poisoned, like a wife of somebody or something like that, and some other people were kind of poisoned, not quite as bad. And the news story was saying that Russia is sort of traditionally kind of has a reputation for being behind anything that has to do with like heavy metal poisoning and so on. So it makes you kind of wonder if maybe Russia is behind these threats to Blaine Gibson and so forth. Part with barnacles in Sea of Thailand. I talked about this one, I think, at least kind of the last time and the time before, but and I was I was mixing that one up here a little bit, but I think this is the one that was found on like a Saturday that I was telling you, but a Saturday about 2 years after it was found, and so the barnacles kind of matched. It had barnacles, and it had like about 2 years to grow barnacles. So people are kind of like putting two and two together and thinking maybe this is like part of the plane. Somebody was saying that it was maybe like a Japanese rocket part, but there's no like further study on this. Authors are just quick to rule out that it wasn't the part and didn't do any further research on it. They're not. No one's kind of like proving that it is the part or proving that it's not the part. They're just sort of like, say, run on and play, everybody. Don't, nothing to see here, move on. So, I mean, that's kind of the trend, why this plane isn't being found. Fishermen near Queensland. I was thinking Queensland was in New Zealand, but I think that's West Australia, kind of northwest Australia. I didn't have time to look that up on the map, but so somewhere kind of in kind of north of Perth, I think, a part kind of washed up. Fishermen found it, and this was another one where the fisherman was describing this, where he was pretty sure that this seemed to be an aircraft part, a large aircraft, like a hinge or actuator, and so on. And I think it was the authorities like quickly ruled that one out as no, that's not an airplane part. But the fisherman really seems to think that it has to be, pretty much. I mean, it could be like a excavator, actuator or something like that from like a front loader. What are those digger, things that you see on the streets digging trenches. But there's no study going on. It's just, the authorities just quickly say, move on. It's, there's nothing to see here, and so on. Anyway, this is kind of the final thing here on searching for the plane. Search off until someone finds it. Both of these are sort of like, kind of, makes you wonder. And I'm not the first to point this out. It seems like people point this out to me, so I'm kind of like pointing it out to you. And if you've studied this, you already know this. There's kind of an irony here where, like, Malaysia government basically says that we're not going to search for this plane anymore until somebody finds something. And it's like, how's anybody going to find anything if you're not searching for it? So I don't know. So anyway, it kind of points that they're just not interested in finding this plane, and they're the ones that maybe have the infrastructure and the know-how and the, and the money to do it and the people to do it and so on. But, this sort of like gives evidence that they're just sort of like, disinterested and not interested in finding this plane. So, that's probably a big reason why it hasn't been found. And the same people here pay only if it's found. This is kind of a weird one where they have this company lined up that will search for the plane if and won't charge, like, the Malaysian government any money unless they find the plane. If they find the plane, then they have a deal that they get money from it. But I do affirm that maybe, the longer they search, the more the government would owe them if they did find it, sort of a jackpot building where it's like, you search for a month and they have to pay you, $100,000. But if they search a year, they have to pay you $1 million. They search 2 years, $2 million. I can kind of see, but they just kind of were quickly to kind of say, well, let's call off the search to the people that will do it for free, and forever, and just want money, to turn the plane over to them, kind of thing. So anyway, that's what I have for this week. My voice is going out a little. I'm getting over a cold, which I had kind of bad about a week ago. But anyway, when I talk a lot, it kind of goes out. Anyway, please please subscribe, please tell all your friends and so forth. Be well and have a good one. So long, James.